Determining which characters go before other characters, enemies, and how many turns you take with a character inside of a cycle is not determined explicitly by speed. No, it's actually determined by this stat, which is your action value. While speed does play a very important role in determining how fast your character goes, especially in comparison to your other characters or enemies, it's not the exact stat that determines this. It's really this stat, action value, that determines these things. What's going on? It's Josh. Today we're going to be going over the hidden stat in Honkai Star Rail, action value, and how you can abuse it to maybe do a little bit of a broken thing or two. But if you turn this option on inside of your game settings, you will actually see this number associated with every character, and this is their action value. This is the true number that determines what character or enemy is going to go in which particular order and how many times you can take an action before a cycle ends. And this is very important in harder content, such as in the Memories of Chaos. So today I'm going to break this down in the easiest way for you to understand how to most take advantage and generate this stat. Now, action value itself is determined in a very simple way. It's just the number 10,000 divided by your speed. Once you do this, this is the action value that your character will generate at the start of battle and every time they take an action. In Honkai Star Rail, whoever has the lowest action value is going to be higher up on the bar and thus faster than other characters. And this value also can be changed by various buffs, such as Asa's flat speed buff for the party or Sele's percentage speed buff. And in addition to this, things that have action combat forward are going to be using your action value stat to determine how much further along the action bar you will move up when these effects are activated. For instance, something like the 4-piece win set that has an action advancement forward value of 25% will look at the character's action value and apply the percentage change to that. So if your action value was 100 and you provided yourself a 25% action forward amount, it would actually move you up 25 action value and generate a new 75 for your action value. Conversely, if your action value is already 50 and you apply a 25% action forward buff, you will get 25% of your 50 action value, which is going to move you up 12 and a half action value ahead. And this is an interesting correlation because the faster you are, the lower your action value is, and the lower your action value is, the less you will actually gain from using a movement advancement buff. So why would you want to know how action value works anyways? Well, there's two very important things that this can allow you to do. Now, the first very important thing is in hard difficulty like the Memories of Chaos, you're judged on the certain amount of cycles that you take to defeat the enemy. And if you know how cycles work, well, guess what? You can take advantage of this. And cycles, just like characters, are also judged by action value. For instance, we'll call the first cycle Cycle 0, and this one's very important and special because it's judged based on the amount of actions you can take up to 150 total action value. Every cycle beyond this is also going to be judged by an additional 100 action value. So what does this mean? Well, if you know what your action value you can generate is, and you know the maximum amount of action value you can use before a cycle ends, you can strategize your characters based on their speed and how many different action advancement forward buffs you have access to, and then tune them accordingly so you can make as many actions as you possibly can during certain cycle thresholds. For instance, if you wanted to have 3 actions during cycle 0, you'd have to, on average, generate about 49 to 50 action value per action. If you do this on speed alone, it'd be 201 speed. Any more than an average 50 action value for your character per action would put you over the 150 threshold, and you would lose an action during cycle 0. And as cycle 0 is made up of 150 total action value, and every cycle afterwards is only an additional 100, the different speed and action value push breakpoints you'll need will change based on which cycle of the fight you're trying to min-max for. Trying to get a bonus action in cycle 0 might be a little harder for you than maybe getting a bonus action for a character throughout a 3-cycle fight. If you're having fun breaking the game with me, go ahead, throw that like down there. Let's continue. For instance, our Brania has 132 speed, so based on the math that we've shown so far, she should generate a 76 action value at the start of combat. If you want to see what your starting action value is, you can pause the first turn of combat by activating someone's ultimate, and you will see everyone's action value on the sidebar. But what would happen if we gave Bronny a speed buff right now? Well, Asta has a speed buff we can activate with her ultimate, which will give us 43 additional speed. At 43 speed, our action value should go all the way down to 57. So we're going to activate Asta's ultimate and pause it once again afterwards to see what our action value will be. Right now, Bronny is 76, and as we go to activate Asta's ultimate, we can see that it's going to change our action value to 57. So let's activate this, but also do one more thing. We're going to activate Bronny's ultimate and use the win set 4-piece that's going to give us a 25% action value push. With the speed buff on top of this, we should go to a total of a 43 action value after Bronny uses her ultimate. So let's see if this holds true as well. We'll activate Bronny's ultimate.
To guard and defend, crush them. I'll free you from your
And as we can see, our action value has updated to the intended 43, exactly what we wanted to see and exactly what the math says. Sometimes it'll be off by a number or two, but that is specifically because of the way that the game rounds things sometimes.
Come on.
But what about order of buffs and that they're applied? Does it matter if you give a speed buff before or after an action value push? For instance, we're going to be running the 2-piece set here that gives us a 40% advancement forward after the battle begins. What happens if we started with this, but then gave ourselves an Asta buff afterwards for speed? So let's find that out. We'll start a new battle once again and activate Ting's ult to pause the timer so we can see our true starting action value. We have 46 action value, which is extremely close to the 45 that our math has. Once again, this is due to differences in rounding. So what happens if we apply our Asta speed buff? Are we going to get the expected value of 34, even though we've already pushed our character with her 2-piece set? So let's go ahead and bounce up Asta's ultimate ability and wait for Ting's animation to finish. And as we go to activate Asta's ultimate, we will see that we're going to 35 action value, which is just 1 point off of what we mathed out at 34, once again due to the game rounding in a different way. But we also have one more thing we can do to change our action value before anyone takes a turn, and that's actually activating Bronny's ultimate, because I'm wearing the 4-piece set that gives you a 25% action value push when you use your ultimate ability. So let's use the ultimate of Asta here and then activate Bronny's ultimate.
We've entered the storm.
And now we'll be able to see if our action value actually goes up. The game doesn't know that I have the 4-piece on yet, so it's not shown here. But if I queue up another ultimate so no one's action value changes towards the turn order, we'll be able to see our action value update in real time. But is it going to be the 20 that we expect? Went up 15 right to the grand total of 20 action value. What's the best way to take advantage of this? Well, you can do two things with it. You can use it to know how much action value advancement forward you need to keep a character either in front of or behind another character. This is very important for nihilism as well as harmony characters that have very important buffs and debuffs that you would want to land either before or refresh right after your DPS goes. But on top of that, now that you know how to plan out your action value and generate an exact number for every turn that you can do, if you really want to min-max and make the game easier for Hall of Memories and harder content like Memories of Chaos that reward you for doing things under certain amounts of cycles, you can now plan out how many turns you want to take in a 5-cycle fight or a 6-cycle fight or a 2-cycle fight and speed tune everything that way. Do you want to end everything in cycle 0? You now know exactly how much action value you should be able to generate 3 times in a row to facilitate having 3 turns there. And you can do this no matter which cycle you're aiming for. Do you want to have 5 actions at cycle 3, 7 actions total by cycle 4? You now know exactly the speed you need, and on top of that, the amount of action advancement forward you'd need, and now you can min-max the exact amount of action value you need to generate to meet the cycle requirements for specific amounts of turns. For instance, if you wanted to take 3 actions in cycle 0, you would need at least 201 speed to guarantee that you would have 3 actions within that cycle, as having 201 speed is going to give you a 50 action value. 50 plus 50 plus 50 is 150, and you'll fit 3 actions within that 150 action value window of cycle 0. But if you had a much slower character like Bronya at 140 speed with a 2-piece that pushes you advancement forward right at the start of combat, the first turn is going to generate 43 action value. And then if you use a basis skill with her ultimate in the 4-piece win set, that turn's going to have 54% action advancement forward and generate a 35 action value. And the final ability here can just be a skill which will generate 71 action value, giving you a grand total of 149 action value, meaning that your slow 140 40 speed Brania with this setup can take as many actions as an extremely fast 201 speed Seele. There's a lot of things you can do with action value now that you know how to calculate it to min-max and make the game easier. I'm planning on doing that with all of my characters so we can cycle 0 a ton of stuff, or maybe even do like a cycle 1 or 2 on a couple of bosses. It's absolutely busted if you get it down in min-max. Now, do you absolutely need to know how this stuff works in Honkai Star Rail to play the game at endgame? Probably not, but what it will do is give you a significant edge in playing the game the way you want to play it, making your supports more effective, making your debuffers more effective, and allowing you to get just the right amount of speed on your gear without wasting extra stats. So with that being said, have fun out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.